time for a revolution. It's time for a revolution. Can we get the people of Seattle to say it one time? It's time for a revolution. A reefer revolution.
A reefer revolution.
That's what we need. We need people to get up, stand up for your rights. That's what we need. I'm an individual. I specialize more in civil disobedience. I publicly call myself the NewJerseyWeedman.com. That was a publicity stunt that actually was pretty successful. At one point, I tried to change my name because I knew I got in the papers all the time, and I wanted the newspapers to actually write NJWeedman.com constantly. You know, I'm not a rich man, but what it is, I formed the Legalized Marijuana Party. Every year in New Jersey, I run for office under the Legalized Marijuana Party. You know, and I tell people all the time, you can be an individual. There's going to be 100,000 people here. Imagine if 100,000 people decided to really get up and stand up for their rights. You know? I don't belong to any big organizations, just the Legalized Marijuana Party. Do a Google search. NJWeedman.com. Now, for calling myself NJWeedman.com, I've run into a lot of political problems. I've been jailed. I made commercials. Out here, I'm envious of what's allowed to go on out here in Seattle. In New Jersey, I live in a police state. A couple times I tried to have big events like this, we got busted. I got busted several times just for publicly speaking. And you guys can have a couple 100,000 people here, quasi not smoking. But I gotta tell you something, I made a commercial in 2002. I made 3 commercials basically just advocating for the legalization of marijuana. Nothing was illegal about them. I had a shirt on similar to this that said, I love my country, but I fear my government. And I made 3 commercials telling the truth about marijuana. I gave the copies of the commercials to several newspapers, and I signed a contract with Comcast to air the commercials. It was going to air on a Saturday during a CNN special presentation on 9/11, to be honest with you. And anyway, the newspapers wrote about it. The state of New Jersey put pressure on Comcast to yank the ads, so that Thursday all the newspapers wrote that the Weedman ads that we wrote about yesterday are not going to air. And then that Monday, I was arrested. And I couldn't believe it. I was arrested. I was charged with advocating criminal activity. And I became a political prisoner of our pot wars. I spent 5 months in jail because I made 3 commercials advocating the legalization of marijuana. You can still see the commercials online. You can just do a Google search, NJ Weedman and censorship, and you'll find my commercials. I spent 5 months in jail. But an interesting thing was the state of New Jersey said that I was advocating criminal activity, and they were prosecuting me. But what I did from jail, I filed a writ of habeas corpus. Some people may recently have heard of the writ of habeas corpus because George Bush has eliminated it. So-called right now is for enemy combatants, but we got the trickle-down effect. Eventually it's going to include all of us. But after the state of New Jersey put me in jail for making commercials, I filed a writ of habeas corpus in federal court, alleging to a federal judge that the state had put me in prison in violation of my right to free speech. And at first the judge really didn't believe it. It's very rare anyway that a federal judge will accept a writ of habeas corpus from an imprisoned state prisoner. But in this case, he thought my allegations were so outrageous. I was out alleging that I was in prison because I made pro-pot commercials and attempted to put them on TV. So the judge thought, he decided to have an evidentiary hearing, and sure enough, the state came to the federal district court judge, before Judge Irenas, and they actually argued that I should remain in jail, and the state had planned on prosecuting me for, I could have gotten up to 10 years in prison. The federal judge decided that this was an absolute violation of the right to free speech and interceded, which normally never happens. A federal judge does not normally intercede in state action. And eventually I was freed. Eventually I did get to run my commercials. Several months later, I ran for office. I ran for governor in 2005 in New Jersey. Out of 13 candidates, I came in 5th. You know, it's the Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, and then the weed man.
Don't have to radio.
You know,
Mic's off. Mic's off.
Mic's off.
Hello?
There you go. You're on.
Okay. I've done a lot of court cases on my own. You know, I've only got a few minutes to talk about it, but I've fought the state of New Jersey with their DNA laws. I'm one of these jailhouse lawyers who's not in jail. I have a bunch of ideas. I wish I really was a lawyer. I wish I knew what a lawyer was when I was a kid. You know, after I got old enough to realize what a lawyer was, I needed one. You know, I tell people all the time, man, it's time for a revolution, a reefer revolution. You know, I think the cannabis consuming communities, I'm one, I call myself a peaceful, proud, patriotic pothead. You know, I don't hide the fact, I haven't hidden the fact that I smoked marijuana since I was a kid. You know, I believe marijuana has its medicinal reasons. I believe marijuana can be used and should be used sacramentally. I never hear that argument publicly. But the First Amendment should apply to religious users of marijuana as well. You know, our federal government through the 1993 Freedom of Religion and Restoration Act should protect us. I'm getting done. I want to invite everyone between 3 and 3:15 though to go over to the Hemposium. I'll be speaking there where I can go into more details about issues. In the meantime, happy 420, Seattle.